3, 2, 1. What's up, Jeff?
How's it going?
It's the JV in the house.
JV.
Sorry, I called you
The new
Jeff.
name.
It's all right, man. It's all right.
Cool.
What's up, guys? We're here at the B&E Grand Rapids, the Business and Entertainment Podcast with Kelly and JV. And we're super excited to have you on here, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Fantastic, man.
Hey,
Couldn't be
okay.
better drinking this tangy Russian tea here.
Which is so good.
It is pretty good,
So,
though.
so good.
Oh, you introduced it to us, and it's in our own studio.
I know,
the
right?
smell, man. The smell is what got
That
me,
smell
you know
was
what I mean?
interesting. It was
Powder
like,
is what got you.
it was good, but it was a lot.
You know what I mean?
He got high.
He
and
just
then-
he put it all in my face. I was like, whoa. No, it's like tang and tea and ground clover. Is that what it is?
Is it? I
You're-
don't know.
You're a
I
coffee
just-
guy, though, right?
I am. Yeah.
Coffee.
Going
guy.
to every
We just
coffee
had a
shop
couple.
in the city.
We had a couple guys
Tried
that love
to, that's the
coffee
goal.
here. Yeah, coffee. What's your favorite kind of coffee?
Honestly, I don't really have like a favorite blend. They all have like very distinct taste.
Yeah.
Other than that, man, like I just try whatever for the most part. Like typically if I go to a coffee shop, usually get, a black coffee, sometimes a mocha. If it's like a cheat day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't really have like a specific
Special?
special flavor like a go-to. I'm
Not
down
like
to try
a
whatever,
bougie.
you know what I mean? Because there's so many different, flavors and aromas. Like it's just
I don't get coffee. I drink it. So I can tell like good coffee now after like 5 years of drinking it. It's just
5
so
years.
after
late.
5 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
I'm not a big coffee drinker. I actually just like tea, but
Oh,
even
yeah.
even that's too much.
Do the
Have
green
you-
tea?
Yeah, the green
Okay.
tea is the thing right there, It's got a little L-theanine, kind of relaxes you too as you're high on that caffeine. It's good.
I still got to transition, man. I still haven't made that transition yet to green tea.
Coffee's good. It tastes great. I love the taste of like that morning, like fresh sip.
It's that feeling.
Yeah.
It's the smell.
It's that,
It is.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
like
the
that.
I mean,
holding the coffee.
Mom and dad waking up smell.
Dad life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fortunately.
Basically.
Yeah.
Speaking of dad life, you have 2 kids, right? And you work full time?
Yep.
Dang.
What's that like?
It's a process, man. You know what I mean? There's been some transitions lately, so there's a more balance with that. But, for the most part, obviously, you want to make sure like you're kind of pouring into your children, investing in that area. At the same time, you're trying to build a business on top of that, which takes a lot of energy in itself as well, too, right? Like, it's no different than, it being like a brand new baby. It's the same thing, right? In order for you got certain goals, certain accomplishments you want to achieve with that. So really trying to find that balance can be difficult at times. You know what I mean? So like
I remember
for me,
we were talking one time. It was like there is no balance.
it's a circle. We'll go with a circle. You know what I mean? I don't know if
There's no balance.
I don't know if there ever is, but we'll go with a circle though. You know what I mean? Because there's times to where like the business is going to be a priority over the family, right? And then there's going to be times where a family is going to be a priority over the business. So. Unfortunately, being self-employed, you kind of get that luxury to pick and choose. But so often when you get caught up in kind of chasing the goal, you can kind of lose sight of the more important things of life, or like relationships you should be investing in, people you should be talking to. It can be a challenge, man. It can be a challenge. It takes time. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out the systems and process for it.
I just
I
don't
don't think
want to
there's
figure
a-
it out.
I
don't even want
I don't
kids.
even want to. You know what I mean?
But actually, let's do a little backstory because I don't think people know how we know each other. So I met you through one of my great friends. I've known here in Grand Rapids since I was 14, about 14, 15. One of the first people I met here, Justin Bean.
Yep.
And then he introduced me to you.
You guys went through Justin?
Yeah.
So we met because you were building Apotheos.
Yep.
And Apotheos is your protein brand that you built from scratch.
Yep.
Manufacture products and all that. And so I had built some green products that were helping people lose weight back 5 years prior. And Justin's like, you got to meet Jancy, you got to meet Jeff, JV, because he's making some products like what you did almost. And so we connected on that.
Yep.
And then we got to know each other over the years because then I started cutting your hair. And then I was in the basement back then.
I'm sorry.
I was in the basement,
I'm
barber.
real sorry.
Basement barber.
Hey, you know what I mean? The haircut was still on point. That's the only thing that mattered.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
transitioning,
As long as
right?
I'm walking out of there fly.
Right,
I don't care
transitioning.
about nothing else.
So that's how we met. And then now, so you built the Apotheos. And I thought it was super cool because I'm like, man, this guy's just like me. He's like ambitious. He's building some products. He's just got drive, you know. And then you transition into real estate as well, but you still have Apotheos.
Yep.
And tell us a little bit about that transition, what you're doing, what you're about, why both, and you know, just give us a little history.
So basically, in short, you know, one day life just kind of has its way of, you know, self-discovering, you kind of figuring things out. You know, so at that point in time in my life, I was kind of coasting, really kind of sat down, started asking myself, you know, very specific questions, you know, regarding like my passions, things I enjoy to do. And then at that point in time, obviously it's kind of health and fitness. You know, I've been an athlete my entire life. So I was just kind of like, oh, well, why don't I, you know, kind of make a product, right? And like really start taking the health journey serious, start exploring that, getting that figured out. So I spent a little time, you know, researching, kind of going through that process. Obviously launched the company, Apotheos, you know, fast forward to like a year and a half, 2 years later. I just wasn't able to get rid of the product like I wanted to, right? So it became one of those things.
Really almost always the case in a startup like that, mainly because I believe what I went through as well is like we started ground up, you know, product first. You know, I think things work a little different, but we'll touch on that later.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely a journey, right? Like being my first adventure, right, as an entrepreneur. You know, there's no background of that within my family, right? I didn't have those relationships at the time, people to connect with and have those conversations. Like, what does that process look like? So, you know, in short, like I had to figure all that out, like on the way.
It's a lot,
right? Which is a lot.
It's a lot.
And there was a lot of failures, you know what I mean? But I learned a lot from that adventure. So, you know, now obviously I transitioned over to real estate, kind of put Apotheos up on the shelf right now, just because I've also noticed, like, during that process of Apotheos, I was focusing on way too many things. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like the downfall of that as well, too. And now, you know, I kind of understand 2 years later that, like, it's impossible unless you have a team and the resources available to you. It's impossible to focus and build two things at once. You know what I mean? Like, it just is. So through that discovery, obviously, right?
I learned that on my third loss. I had 3 businesses I collapsed on.
You know what I mean?
Man.
But hey, but it's worth it. I mean, experience is everything, right? Because you learn.
It is what it is.
You learn a lot from that. You know what I mean? Like now, you know, on the real estate side of things, right? Like, you know, the work ethic, time on task, you know, understanding the importance of having, you know, relationships, the team building aspect of it, you know, having those resources available, you know, has allowed me to be successful, right? Within real estate, you know, as far as this being like a relatively new adventure for me. You know, and I feel like if it wasn't for that experience with Apotheos and kind of going through some of those struggles and trying to understand that process and what it took to build that and develop that, I don't think I'd be able to have the success I have now or meet the people I've been able to meet. And it's been great, man. You know?
That's what's up.
Awesome.
So in essence, it wasn't like a direct jump into real estate, but it had indirect things you've learned, right?
Right. It wasn't a direct jump. Like I had to think really hard about that, right? Because it was like Apotheos is like my baby. I don't want to let that go.
But you transitioned
like
so quick, man. I remember.
You think so?
I think so.
I thought it was a process for me. You know, you know what I mean? I was like, what the hell?
I
man?
remember. I'm not trying to put you out there like that, but
Yeah,
I remember
yeah,
you
yeah.
coming in the shop. Not even 8 months ago, and you're like, man, I failed this test 7 times.
Bro, 7 years?
Yeah.
No, you know what I'm saying?
You know,
Hey,
I
that
mean,
shit, listen.
Which I admire, because you got it on the 8th.
You know what I'm saying? Hey,
You got it on the 8th.
listen,
And they're not easy.
They're not, man. And that shit, listen, I learned a lot through that process. A lot. Like being persistent, right? Like, you know, through that process, obviously, I learned a lot about myself, right? Like, I've never, studying has really never been my thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So through that, obviously, I had to learn some new
Learning how to
skills
study is
and
a
learning
skill
how to
in
study
Oh,
itself.
yeah.
more so, right?
Because you were going through that alone.
Oh yeah.
How
dude.
do I get the
You know what I mean?
concept, right?
Like, bro, I mean,
Those
like
one-
$1,200 later, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I mean, I got the money back on the first deal, but that's still not the point, yo. It took like what 4 or 5 months of us talking about
Yeah,
this. You
man.
know what I mean? It took a while, but you know, as far as like self-discovery perspective, like it allowed me to learn about a lot about myself, right? Like as far as the lengths that I'm willing to go, you know, and understanding at that point in time, I did fail 7 times, but I was also learning 7 different times, like
Right.
how to succeed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and then obviously on top of that, right? Like, you know, I had my children that I'm kind of doing this for, and like the bigger picture and the vision as well too. So it's like, well, you know, I understand like, you know, real estate is something I want to be a part of my life and as far as part of my career and build that as a business. But, you know, like if I'm going to give up on this and trying to succeed here, even though I failed 7 different times, like what else am I going to fail on in life?
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if I'm just going to kick it to the curb.
Right.
So, you know, at the very least, I wanted to pass it
Mm-hmm.
and then be like, you know what, this ain't for me.
Right.
But it is though, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I love what I do, and that's the great thing about it, man. Like, you know, I get to build relationships all day, which is
Now-
like great.
Apotheos essentially is a protein brand of powders that you were building, right?
That was.
But that you were
Yeah.
building, have built,
Yep.
still have, right?
Yep.
So give us a little bit like on that background, because I think your creations say a lot about who you are, right? So when I built my first green drink, I realized I was pouring my knowledge, my enthusiasm, everything into that drink,
Oh, for
into
sure.
that green
yeah.
powder, right? I was like, it has to have these values. It has to be able to do this. Like that's what I want for myself. So that's what I want to put out there in the world. And I remember when I created the powder, my first thing was I want to make something, sell it, so I don't have to pay for it anymore. Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like,
We all go through that. Like
yeah,
that,
I was
right?
like, I ain't trying to pay for this no more. which was kind of cool because I ended up not paying for my own green drink and I had a surplus amount. And so once I got that, and then I was like, well, how do I want it to function in my body? And then I formulated that. And once I got it out there, my first test, I mean, I went through a lot of like micro failures trying to figure out the formula.
Right.
But once I got it, and I put it out there, the first purchase of the person that bought it was just astounding. So the person's like, oh, I lost 6 pounds in a month. I haven't done anything different. I haven't ate differently or worked out. And I'm like, what? So then I tried it again and same results. And I'm like, this is cool stuff, you know? So it was like myself into that product was the creation. So I'm curious to know like a little bit about how that happened for you.
Okay. No, it was just really so like I'm big on like optimization. Right? It's like a big thing for me, right? So, you know, like with that being said, that was kind of like the same thing I wanted to achieve with that product that I created, right? Like how can I go about creating, you know, a protein that will allow you to you know, within your regimen or at least within your workout or at least, you know, from recreation or athlete, whatever that looks like maintain a high level performance, right? Because you're working out 6-7 days a week, you know, recovery is going to be the most important thing. You know what I mean? Your sleep, your eating habits, all those things like your nutrition, all that good stuff. You know, so I really wanted to create a product that I felt that would allow you to achieve that, right? So with the 6 ingredients, you know, I felt that each one of those ingredients, and it took a significant amount of like research, man. I'm talking like
Oh yeah, it takes a lot.
8 months to a year.
You don't
like
want-
I'm just like looking up ingredients and going through like, okay, this does this for the body. What does this mean? Like, how does this impact it?
You don't want to be wrong.
Right.
You'll
right.
be
and
you'll be 30,000. You'll be 1,000 units wrong.
Oh, 100%,
whatever it is you buy.
100%.
You know?
And I think that was like the biggest, like going through that process, that was like the biggest concern. You know what I mean? Like I was even hesitant to like even pull the trigger on like getting it tested,
Yeah.
going through the flavors, because all that stuff costs, right? So it's like, well,
And you kept
This
it really
isn't-
natural, right? Like
Yeah,
everything is
yeah.
super.
super
Yeah,
super
grass-fed
natural.
whey.
Yep, grass-fed whey,
stevia.
raw cacao, stevia, monk fruit, Himalayan pink salt, and yeah, right. Like every single one of those ingredients have a great impact on the body, and I feel like push the body in that direction. I mean, obviously, right? Like it's not like a pre-workout or you know something that's going to enhance your performance to that degree, right? But again, you know, recovery is one of the important things of that process, especially when you're constantly tearing down your muscles.
Right.
You know, so kind of having something in there, I felt like that would contribute to the body in a great way and still allow the body kind of recover but as well still kind of push that standard is what I was trying to achieve with the product.
Yeah, and that's what you do in the gym anyway.
Oh, even now, you know what I mean?
Like, I see your stories,
like,
and
bro,
I'm like, this dude's every day in the gym.
No, hey, listen, I'm
Hard.
telling you, the days that I skip the gym, like I literally, I can see it throughout my like patterns throughout the day. You know what I mean? Because like for me, like I look forward to the gym because I feel like I don't feel like I have competition, right? Like my competition is myself and pushing myself daily, right? So like my competition is the me yesterday. So, you know, granted I could look around and be like, okay, well this guy's selling more real estate or this guy's making more money here, which is great, you know what I mean? But like my biggest thing is like, I just want to be the guy that you think of who like you're not going to outwork. Right. You know what I mean? So like if you're like, hey, I'm about to get up at 4, okay, cool. I'm gonna get up at 3:30. Like, you know what I mean? That's fine. Right. That's cool. But, you know, and the same thing with the gym. Like, I feel like the gym, as far as, like, it's not even physically at this point. It's more so mentally, right? Because after you get to a certain point, you know, you're running or you're doing so many rounds of a circuit or, you know, even weight, you know what I mean? Last rep, like, mentally, you default back to, like, I can't do this. You know what I mean? So it's like, at that point, it's a mental block. So, like, what do you do to surpass that? You know what I mean? Like, you got to push yourself. Because at that point in time, like, when you're doing last rep and you can barely even push it up, like, you know, the conversation's going one or two ways. Like, hey, I got this shit, or no, like, I'm not going to get it. Right? Like, and if you go into it with that perspective, well, you're not going to get the last rep. You know what I mean? And how is that going to pour into other stages of your life? Right? So, you know, for me, and that's why the gym is, like, so important and why, again, I'm in there every single day because, like, that's what it does for me, right? Like, it allows me to set the stage for the day and the tone for the day. Other than that, if I don't do it, yeah, I can totally, like, I'm dragging
it's hard
all day.
I've heard studies of that where the gym, like entrepreneurs that do work out have more stamina and work hours that they can input. And you work harder too because you're pushing yourself physically in this constrained environment, right? You're putting a physical demand on your body, not just cardio, but weight-wise, and then you mentally have to overcome the pain. So I can imagine that as an entrepreneur now, having experienced some things, I can say like, yeah, when I'm tired, I have to push through that. You know, when I don't want to do that last meal or when I don't want to do that last podcast or whatever it is, I'm like, just got to push through it. And how do you push through it? It's like fortitude, it's willpower, it's talking yourself through it. It's being like, you got this, you're good. You know, just wake up, keep going, one more step type of thing.
Oh, 100%. 100%. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a strategy behind it. You know, I really think it's important to, like, understand who you are as a being, right? And understand those weaknesses and things that you can kind of put in place to keep you pushing forward, right? Because, I mean, if you don't, like you're saying, like, we all get those days. You know what I mean? Like, 2 weeks ago, I woke up, I'm like, bro, I definitely don't want to go to the gym. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, absolutely not. You know, I had like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling this right now. You know, but again, like, after, again, you have a decision, right? So it's like, well, I can skip it or I can go in and at least work out for 15 minutes. But then it's like, you know, through habits, because we are beings of habit, like, I feel like that is what's going to allow you to get out of that, like, you know, negative, like, mind frame, right? Like, still
get
committing.
Movement. Just get movement.
You know what I mean? And once you get moving, then it's like, okay, I got this. You know what I mean? You're totally fine after 15, 20 minutes of doing it. You're like, oh, this is...
Oh, that's
good.
fine.
You know
it's funny, like, I battles in my head every day.
Oh,
you
dude.
know, I wake up, I'm like, man.
You're like,
right. Every day.
Especially on 5 hours of sleep, I'm like, get up.
Every day.
That 5 hours is rough.
Yeah, I can do 5 hours 2-3 nights in a row, and then I'm cashing. Like, I have to get that 7 on the 4th.
Right.
You know?
See, and that's important, right? Like, again, right? It's really important to understand that about yourself because, again, that's going to impact your performance throughout the day, your decision making throughout the day, and ultimately, you know, for example, when it comes to doing a podcast or you know, trying to stay up and do like another hour worth of marketing, again, like, if you're not maintaining your body and what you feel is feasible for you, like, again, you're not going to hit those marks, right? Like, and what you don't achieve today, again, that's just going to build up for the following day. So now you're doubling on work, and that doesn't make sense.
Your to-do
you know
list
what I mean?
just
Like,
grows and grows
no, you know what I mean?
grows.
Procrastination kicks in real quick, you know?
I'm just
You
like...
saw us, though, when we were at our burnout, and we were talking about that, how you were like, well, I know that I hit a wall here, and you're like, I can only work off X amount of hours of sleep. Like we had a whole conversation about, because we were like just going, and you're like, you guys gotta chill, you guys gotta know yourselves, and we're like, yeah, and we were
that
figuring
was right
that
at
out.
the point that you were like, no, we have to go.
Yeah, I was like, go, 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 and you came to get your haircut, and you were like, you guys gotta like figure this out.
That's important. You know what I mean? Because everybody hits that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care how passionate you are. Like, there's gonna be a roadblock at some point in time, right? Like, granted, even though you're passionate, like that's energy and that's gonna push you forward. But at the same time, like there are physical aspects to the human body, right? So it's like
you got limitations.
you just right. You know what I mean?
I like to think I'm not limited.
No, right. Yeah, I think we all like to think that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and it's really important to understand that, and that's kind of why I start implementing that, rest period every 8 weeks, because like I understood, after 3-4 months of consistent work, like I was getting burnt out. I'm talking like, it was periods of 1 to 2 days where I'm like, bro, I can't work. And like for me and what my goals are and how ambitious I am, I'm like, I can't have that. You know what I mean? Like
I'm pushing so hard, I can't work now.
No, you know what I mean? And it's like, so I got to do something with that, right? And again, right, like that pours into your work, pours into your relationships, and all those things are vital and important.
Right.
So it's like, like if you have specific goals and you're not doing and understanding yourself and doing what you need to do to nurture yourself, again, like that's going to pour into your business. That's going to pour into your relationships. And it's just, like obviously you want to implement something that makes sense for you, right? So like for me, I'm good with 5 hours of sleep, right? Like
every night?
Every night. I'm good with that. Wow. You know what I mean? Like I can wake up, I'm totally fine.
When do you start like staggering?
Honestly, I don't.
Really?
Like as
if
far
you
as
get 3 hours
well, because I drink coffee all the time. So, what I'm saying? I don't know if that's fair or foul, but, like I mean, I get up in the morning.
But then again, at 26, I did have that too. I mean, I would go hard like that.
Right. Well,
I'm 26. I don't.
I mean it's different. But you have kids too, though.
Yeah.
And you're not.
I mean, I do too, but no.
What I'm saying is,
like, what?
So here's what I'm saying too. Testosterone plays a lot into it.
Oh, okay, yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like testosterone's gonna go harder, longer, faster, stronger. Period.
Oh, right.
Not trying to like this can get really weird.
No, right? No. I get what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's just a fact of.
Right.
Not that a woman couldn't do that, but it's just typically.
But I still do get up better than you.
At what?
I get up better than you. Like
you
I
do,
wake up in the morning. I'm like,
you do. You get better than that. You do.
Well, and it's one of those things. Like I would prefer to get 7-8 hours of sleep.
Right.
But like I just understand as far as like what the vision is for me. I don't see how that's possible.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I just, at least right now in this stage of life, like I don't. Right. Like when I acquire more of the resources that I need to kind of start, delegating some of that time away. Right. Like then that's different. Right. You know what I mean? Like. But right now, I'm not at that point yet. So there's a lot of things I'm just kind of like, well, 5 hours of sleep is all I'm getting.
Right.
And I'm okay with that, right? Like, as long as I understand that it's going to get me here. If it wasn't going to get me there, like, I wouldn't.
Screw it.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't be doing it. There's no
investment.
reason why I'd be doing that, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, there's a reason why some of the greats do some of the things they do and so consistent in those ways.
Right.
Because, right? Like, it leads to a result. You show up every day, it's going to lead to something, whether or not it's 6 months from now or 10 years from now. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna lead to something.
For sure.
So yeah, man, that's
you do things a lot different too. I think we talk about you as far as real estate, and you do things a lot different. Like I don't see you blasting out like marketing as far as that salesy stuff. Like you're really good at.
Like I never see you be like, hey, if you have a house you want to sell. If you want to
Yeah.
buy a house, let me know. Like, it's not that.
Right.
Like, that's very amateur.
but you got to think of it this way. Like we live in a world where people are getting bombarded constantly with marketing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you ever notice, like on Facebook, you look at some shit, and the next thing you know, you got ads that are following you.
Yeah.
Like,
A
you know what I mean? Like to me, that annoys me. I'm like, bro,
Right.
I'm not trying to see ads every couple of like, photos, scrolls, whatever.
Right.
But it's like the same thing like with real estate, right? So like one of the things I've learned with this is, there's a negative association, with the client and, realtors, or at least doing business.
You
right?
mean you
So,
don't
like,
send those long Facebook messages to like 400 people on your friends list that say buy my house?
Right. And
You don't do
nobody
that?
nobody likes that shit.
No.
You know what I mean? And it's like I don't like it. Like, I even get that sometimes from like mortgage lenders, and it's like, dude, like, you know, how about you say hi and ask me how my day's going,
Right.
and let's go from there.
Right.
Well, I think
you
that
know
comes
what I mean?
across
Like,
is like you get those, and especially if you're getting them, which A for effort, like you're out there, you're trying.
oh, 100%.
But like if you get that and you're a realtor, I'm like, did you even take the time to like look at who? Like clearly you didn't, but to take the time to look at who you were before they sent you that message, because they wouldn't send another.
Right.
So that's just a lack of care, and who would want that as somebody to represent them anyway?
Oh,
my theory.
100%.
And it speaks really amateurishly of the person, you know, because it's like, well, they're not even approaching me right. How are they going to take care of me in the transaction?
Exactly. You know what I mean?
It says it all right up front.
100%. And I think the important thing is like everything else, right? Like, relationships are extremely important. Through relationships, that's going to carry you business, right? Like, being your authentic self is what's going to bring you business. So it's like, I don't need to, as long as I'm putting somewheres within there, like, you know, kind of stating I do real estate, but without actually saying it is a little different, right? Like, you get pics of me going into office, stuff like that, but other than that, like, that's all I need to do. You can go to my page, you can see I need to sell real estate. Like, I don't need to tell you anything else. You know what I mean? Like, it's all over the place. So how good is that going to do me just going on, you know, IG feed or stories and putting up, hey, you know, give me some leads, or do you know anybody who wants to sell a house? Like, that's not going to bring me anything more than it's going to just annoy people at that point in time. It annoys me. You know what I mean? So it's like, I would rather just step into my authentic self and be that and allow that business to come to me, because I know it will, because I am being authentic, versus me just spamming people with marketing, right? Like, it just makes no sense.
So what's your thoughts on it now as far as marketing yourself in that aspect? Because I would think real estate marketing is a little tougher than probably marketing Apotheos.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Because, I mean, they're both great competition. But at least with real estate, you have other competitors in the area, right? So how do you separate yourself, and what do you use in the marketplace to like differentiate yourself?
Well, and I think the biggest thing, so like, for example, you know, like I do a lot of cold calling, right? So I think with that, I've learned, you know, just getting on first handful of calls that like there's just negative energy. You know what I mean? Like
off the bat, right?
Right off the bat. Like you can just sense it. You know what I mean? Like you can just sense it. Like they just picked up the phone and like you just ruined their day and all you're saying is hello.
Right.
And, you know, like I understood through that, like my approach to that needs to be different, right? Because, you know, I'm listening to these people talk on the phone and like, well, you're saying like, how are you any different than the next realtor? You know what I mean? Like all you realtors are calling me and all you guys are saying the same thing. Like this is annoying. I don't have time for it. Right? So it's like, you know, when I start that conversation, I go into it with stating like, hey, this is why I'm calling you. I'm calling you for business purposes. And then at that point in time, I transition over into like trying to like understand some things about their situation, or, you know, try to build a relationship with them more so. And then by the end of that conversation, again, I go back into asking them for the business or a referral. And, you know, it's worked for me, right? Because I feel like I'm a fairly social person, so I can hold a conversation for the most part. But, you know, I think it's one of those things with, you know, being in this business, I think the biggest thing is you attract business to you by just being your authentic self. Like, I don't really feel like you can just call somebody now and be like, hey, like, do you want to sell your house? The shit doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't work unless you've built a relationship with that person already. Right. But like, you can't just call some random person and be like, hey, within 5 seconds of the conversation after saying hello, like, hey, I want to sell your house. Right. That's not going to work. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not.
Well, things have changed so much because everything it's at the tip of your fingers. I mean, you can, if somebody did want to sell their house, they can just Google selling home.
100%.
And then some real estate pops up because their search engine was optimized, and then they're the first ones to pop up. Now, you know, whoever that is, they can just go through them if they want. Simple. However, if they're on their news feed, which is what people do mostly now, and then they see you and you're friends with them, and you're doing cool stuff, working on, doing your thing, right? And you sell homes, and they're like, man, he seems like a cool guy. And then they go one day, hey, I'm going to sell my house. Oh, Jeff sells house. JV sells homes. Boom. So that's kind of the new way of marketing, right? And I think most people don't see that. And I think actually because of that, it gives every person a unique opportunity to sell their craft or market their craft.
Right.
You know, I think it's so far-fetched from people's ideas of what that really is, like how that really works, that it's like I can just put my information on Facebook or Instagram. I can just post something and people are gonna like remember
I think
me.
there's like two ways though, because I think some people have a different persona about them on Facebook and Instagram, so then they use the persona to fit this mold so that they do attract the people that they think it's going to attract, when really they're attracting, but this might not make sense, but they're attracting the person that you would actually need for your business. Like there's enough food on the table for everybody.
Oh, 100%.
For sure.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So like you have this person over here essentially being fake, and they're attracting the person that you're going to work best with, and they're completely missing these opportunities over here. And so now you have people that just don't even, they're like, who am I? You know, a lot of people are trying to figure out who they are.
Right.
So if you've already failed in these endeavors, I think that's huge to your real estate success, because you already know you got to learn the hard way.
Oh, 100%. Well,
Figure out yourself.
and that's one of the things I've learned about, like, it's a relationship business. You know what I mean? Like, it just is. Right? Like, I can go into a coffee shop, spark up a conversation, and next thing you know, like, I just got a deal. Right? Like, same thing at the gym. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why, like, I'm constantly, like, putting myself in situations or constantly going to the coffee shop so I can connect with people.
Right.
And it makes you social too, right? Like that's the plus side.
Well, I feel like I've always been social. But, you know what I'm saying?
I get really antisocial. I get like a gremlin. I'm like, dude,
It's hard. I think that's part of why we go to the cop. I'm like, we'll be at home for like the 5th day in a row working from home, and I'm like, we have got to get out of here. Like, I have got to get to the coffee shop. It's your only way to. That's going out. That's how I go out now.
Right.
It's like your social life becomes coffee.
Well, it's interesting too, because it's like it's one of those things where, you know, again, it kind of goes back to the relationship aspect. Like, people really don't understand the power of relationships, right? So, you know, most people, or at least there's a huge variety of people that go to coffee shops and just work, right? Because they're mobile. Like, we live in that day and age. You would be surprised if you at least had one conversation with one person every time you went to a coffee shop who's sitting down with the laptop open, you know what I mean, who looks like, you know, approachable, where that leads to in the future. Like, it's gonna lead to something. I mean, all you're doing is plant seeds, you know what I mean? At some point in time, it's gonna grow.
For sure.
Right?
So,
and it's like,
so if you had to sum it up, what would be like the power of relationship that you've come to understand? Like, how does that affect your life now? The power of relationships.
a lot, right? Like the exchange of information, you know, resources. And I think the biggest thing for me is more so information, because everybody internalizes everything different, right? So like for me, I'm just big on learning how to become better and always improving. You know, and again, right, like when you approach somebody, you kind of ask them, hey, like, what do you do? You know, some people are obviously a little more social than others, but again, like through that, you get to learn something, right? So it's like for me, because again, I am in the relationship business, like I can connect with somebody at a coffee shop. Next thing you know, I'm going to call somebody else who says, you know, hey, do you know this? Or, hey, you know, this is kind of what I'm thinking I need, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I can refer that person to that person. Like, so now, like, for me, like, I've understand, like, at least with me in this business, I've become a relationship builder and as well as a connector, which is, like, great. I love it. You know,
you can't fake that.
Oh, absolutely not. You know what I mean? Well, and again, right? Like, it goes back to, like, I understand, like, I need to have a 10 to 15 minute conversation before I'm asking somebody for the business. Like, period. You know what I mean? Unless, like, I'm at the gym and you're like, hey, I'm talking to this guy and I'm getting ready to sell a house. Oh, well, you're ready to sell a house? Well, hit your boy up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right now, right.
sell real estate.
Right.
You know, let's talk about
I mean,
that.
those are like lucky moments you get here and there.
Well, see, you'd be surprised though, man. Like, you know, like, for example, let's just say, like, there's a certain vehicle that you want, right? And then after a while, you start seeing that vehicle everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing with real estate.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Start
Like, no
paying
matter where I
attention.
go, somebody's talking about real estate.
True.
I mean, just a couple of days ago, there was a dude, I overheard a dude at Myers on the checkout lane talking about real estate. So I stopped and talked to him a little bit.
That's so crazy.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And for us, it's been the opposite. Like, everything's marketing. Everything's marketing. Everything's marketing.
right,
You know?
right. And you start seeing it everywhere.
Everywhere.
So
like,
you know
that's
what I mean?
marketing. This is marketing. Everything's marketing. It's like,
You're like,
everywhere.
you can't get away from it.
yeah, I'm like, my life is marketing. I'm like, I relate to everything in marketing now. I'm like, geez.
Some
Yeah.
language.
Well, that's a thing of the brain. Like I went to a Tony Robbins conference a few years back, and he's like, your brain works like a missile that has a target behind it that can find that target. Right? I forget what those are called exactly, but basically you have this thing called the RAS, reticular activation system, in your brain that once you focus on something, you see more of it. So his example was, all right, everybody, don't think of the color blue. Don't think of the color blue. What do you see right now? Blue. Right?
Right.
Don't think of the color red. What do you see right now? Red.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like whatever you focus on, even though you're saying don't think about it, you're still thinking about it. So it's kind of like that reverse psychology, but that's how it works. It's whatever you focus on, you bring into your life.
You did that with me
100%.
last year. I go, don't let me forget. Don't let me forget. You're like, stop saying that. Just,
Yeah.
They say, help me remember. Help me remember.
And it's funny because that little switch worked dramatically in remembering things. Matter of fact, I started counting the times we were forgetting versus the 9.
Yeah, it helped a lot.
And it was just crazy. I was like, just help me remember.
Yeah.
And it was just, we stopped even talking about it because we remembered all the things. You know, it'd be like forgetting the keys or forgetting like whatever it was.
Yeah, because you waste so much time. You ever like get in your car and then have to go back inside and then get in your car.
That's so annoying.
I'm about to say, bro, that shit is so frustrating.
Entrepreneur hangups. You're like, I gotta go back in my house.
You're like, God dang it, I was on time.
I got my keys again.
Especially my car doesn't have a key. It's just a remote and you push the button.
starter?
Yeah. And I'm like, are my
Your
keys
wallet,
even
your
in here? I
keys,
don't
your
even
bags,
know.
the shoes. I mean, some days I'm like, I'm for real going crazy. I gotta reset. Reset the day. So, but that's what's up, man. I mean, it's a lot to learn with that. So, you know, it's cool to have you on because I wanted to hear from a realtor's perspective the concepts that translate into business, right? Because there's so many things to take from, and it's like, you know, one thing I do want to share with most people is one thing I'm actually learning in life is that it's so important to sell yourself as whoever you are, because most people will say, I'm not a salesman, right? But that's so not true. That is not the truth, because everything you do is a sale onto the world.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? It's just a different way of doing it. You're selling your appearance. If you're a grungy dresser and you don't care about your appearance, you're selling that. Right. You're telling people that that's who you are. You know, or if you're a certain style dresser, if you're like luxury, nice apparel, if you're like you have this style or whatever, the way you speak is a way of selling. Your job, you had to sell yourself to a job, like getting that employment. You know, you had to sell yourself into your position as well. You sell yourself every day. You're like, hey, you can do business with me.
That sounds so bad. Like selling yourself.
And I think sales just has a negative connotation to it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
She's got that negative, like, yeah, but I don't want to be a sleazy salesman because I got to push this on people. It's like, no. It's marketing always, and then you're selling. Because there comes a point where, you know, this thing I am, this is like, if you're trying to find a spouse, a job, whatever it is, you have to present that to somebody eventually and hope they like it enough to that you're accepted into their life, or they accept whatever it is you're offering.
Right.
And that's sales.
Oh, 100%.
You know?
Well, it is, right? Like, and to your point, it's everywhere. In every aspect of life that we do. So it's like, it's one of those things where, like, you know, objections.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, rejection. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's you know, you going up to some random girl, you know, out on the street and having that conversation, like, yo, you might get rejected, right? Like,
might,
but
chances are.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I already know about the
I guess depending on who you are, but
but it's funny. It's funny. What even in that instance, like when I would have to approach a girl, like if I thought a girl was cute, I'd approach her. I'm like, I know about they get rejected, but I don't even care. I'm gonna try.
Right.
Or it's like I assume that they always said assume the latter, which is assume that they're going to say yes, and then also assume the rejection. Like it's kind of both. It's weird.
Well, so and see, and that's the thing that's so interesting is because like a lot of people don't understand like subconsciously what you believe is what pours out, right? Mm-hmm. So for example, like if you're going up in that situation, you have a lack of confidence. Well, just understand like that is going to be
happen.
Received, and it is going to happen,
right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, for example, it's one of those things where like I don't know if you've ever been like in the parking lot driving to Myers, wherever store, right, trying to get a parking spot, and you're like, hey, I need a spot, I want a close spot, right, and like it just happens. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
it's one of those things to where
Your RAS.
you know what I'm saying? Like you're again, what you put out into the universe, you will receive, right? Like. So, like, if you're approaching any conversation, whether it's, a business pitch or you're trying to sell yourself, like, for me, for example, picking up the call and calling people, right? Like, even though that conversation is happening over the phone and we're not face to face, they can still sense that energy.
100%.
It's being exchanged over the phone.
So
you know what I mean?
tonality.
And they're like 20, 30 miles away, and they're still feeling that,
Yeah.
right? So,
Because it's not your words, it's your tone.
oh, 100%. 100%. And it's your emotions.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you can tell when somebody has a lack of confidence. Like, you can feel that when they walk into the room.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter.
So crazy.
And that's why I think it's important to, like, really understand that and to always walk in confidence and get that figured out, right? Like, for me, I wasn't always a confident person in the room. Now I'm like, no doubt.
What do you mean? You weren't born confident?
Oh, absolutely not. Hey,
you know born good looking and confident?
You know what I mean? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Insecurities and all that, right? Like,
Come out the womb like, Mom, I got this. I'm good.
no, you know what I mean?
That's how Kobe Bryant was. Right.
But right, you gotta have that Mamba mentality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's something that like you develop,
Yeah.
right? Like you have to hone that. And again, right, it comes through practice, right? It comes through testing the waters. It comes through exploration. Like you can't get there if you're not willing to put yourself out there and kind of explore it, right, and get stuff figured out.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got these props here, propeller. So we got this propeller, and we got a little scooter from I think it's the 40s. And
Is it
then
the
we
40s?
got, I think,
Rusted
that's what
out,
she
man.
said. It's like super rusted out. So I picked this propeller out because it's just really heavy and it's like metal and it's got a cool design and it's brass.
Cool.
I don't know how old it is, but it looks really cool.
It'd be so nice on a wall, though.
Yeah, it definitely weighs about 20 pounds for sure. And then the scooter, I picked it out because it's rusted. But I was like, when I look at this, and I asked you, I was like, what do you think about when you look at this? I'm like, little kids just scraping their knees. like first design, metal wheels on concrete. I just, I can't imagine they had like nicely paved roads back then. Just Johnny had a peeled knee. So I just thought it was cool. Look at those little handlebars. Man, but it's tiny though. Like you can't be an adult on that. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Oh, absolutely not.
Bill riding that.
She said those handlebars come off though as a skateboard.
Yeah, it kind of turns into a skateboard, but you can't turn it.
Nah,
I don't want to touch it because it might fall. But so then we got Captain America. It's now or never.
Jeff picked that out.
Yeah. So tell us about why you picked that.
Instantly, man, I just kind of thought about the Kobe Bryant situation, right? Like, obviously, his death.
Did you see that picture?
What picture?
Didn't you show Captain America or Iron Man?
Oh, the Iron Man picture.
Keep going.
Supposedly, Marvel is. Man, I forgot it's kind of an interesting title. They're including him into the Marvel comics somehow.
Really?
Yeah, I was like,
no way, bro.
I mean, this is an article. I don't know how valid the article is actually because it could say.
That.
How you found that quick?
What? Oh, they got my man on the Thanos. Oh,
Yeah.
no
just showed-
doubt.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Supposedly,
No doubt.
supposedly there's gossip and talk about Kobe, the NBA logo being Kobe.
Really?
Can you imagine that? I mean, I don't
That's
see.
crazy.
I don't
That is
think.
crazy.
I don't think
Right?
that's a far-fetched idea, though.
Oh,
Considering
absolutely not. Right.
one of the greatest.
100%.
You know what happened?
That's crazy.
Anyway, Captain America. Why'd you pick him?
No, well, not necessarily. I'm not a fan of
Kobe.
Captain America. More so the same.
But
Oh
Kobe.
yeah,
you know what I mean?
I see.
But no,
Oh, yeah,
man,
it
just the
was
same though, because it was just kind of like a quick, reminder. It's now or never, right? So like for example, Kobe's situation, right? Like he woke up, usual routine. You know what I mean? Kids, wife, etc. Assuming probably said goodbye, did his usual stuff in the morning, and walked out the door. Right? You're getting on a helicopter. You're not expecting, anything bad to happen, right? Like
Right.
because it's been like that for 41 years.
Right.
Like
Right.
just living life. And it's really one of those things like, like I just kind of feel like you need to understand, like we need to understand as people, you know, who have like a vision or you're passionate about something, you know, or relationships that you feel like you need to spend a little more time and pour into that. Like now is the time to do that, right? Because you don't know. Like we go to bed with the expectation that we're gonna wake up tomorrow.
Isn't that so arrogant?
Right? Like it is. You know what I mean? But again, because there's so much noise in the world, like we don't filter through that, right? Like especially with technology now. You know what I mean? Like
I feel like we forget we're mortal.
No.
I know. I'm just saying.
You know
like you don't think about it unless you put yourself in that mind frame.
Crazy.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, again with the expectation of like we're gonna wake up tomorrow. Like you don't know that.
You don't know.
You know what I mean? Like clearly Kobe didn't know he was gonna die in a helicopter crash. You know what I mean? Like he didn't know that.
Man, I don't know. And I don't know if it's my age now, but I've had so many friends like just here and there just clip away. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Yeah.
And then you have to learn to not live in like fear of that too. Like
I'll
try to like teach my kids that. I'm like, you can't be like, yeah, you might not wake up tomorrow. Like you can't.
They're gonna look at you and be like, mommy, what?
You can't tell them that.
It's a hard life.
You know what I mean?
But at the same time, you have to like teach that in a different way. Like you have
Kids,
to
you're gonna die one day.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, live your fullest.
But that's a real lesson, I think, is to do that and not be like, oh shit, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow. Like,
oh right,
okay,
100%.
You know.
Well, time is your most valuable asset. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like once you give it, you're not gonna get it back. Doesn't matter where you give it to, right? So it's like, you know, with the understanding, like it's now or never. It's one of those things where like, you know, relationships pour into that quickly.
Like, what do you got to do right now?
You don't know. Like we can walk out right now and I just get into a car accident. That's it.
You never know.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, with that being said, like, am I doing the things I need to do throughout the day and pouring into the things that I care about most, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, business will be there, but people won't.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I pass away right now, and the real estate business will still be there, right? Like, Crunchy Munchies can still be here for 100 years.
She'll take it on.
You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things. Like, it's just, you know, again, like there's certain things that have that longevity to it. Unfortunately, us as humans, like we have expiration date, right? So it's like, you know, with that being said, you know, what are you doing with that time that you do have?
Right.
You know, and are you pouring into things that you need to? Like, you know, I think it's important, at least with my children, right? Like, I express to them, you know, like time is very precious. You know what I mean? Like, it's extremely precious. It's a privilege that we even have time. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
this is the one life that we have. So it's like, if you're not doing what you need to do, or if you're stuck at a space where you're like, you just can't stand where you're at right now, well, you got time.
Change.
But
You're not a
change
tree.
it. You know what I mean? Like, do it now, right? Like, if you're like, hey, I don't like this job, okay, well, quit. You know what I mean? Like, there's thousands of other jobs out there. Get a new one. Do something that makes you happy.
It's funny how people get stuck. We get stuck in our ways. We get stuck in what we're doing. We get stuck in relationships. We get stuck. It's like, it's just a weird human thing.
Move.
It's easy though, right? Like, and it's easy. And I feel like if you don't know yourself or what your boundaries are, it's easy to get trapped in that.
Yeah. You get comfy.
Oh, 100%. Right? And that's another thing. Like, you know, as far as comfortability, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Right? Because, again, I mean, I know people who make 6-7 figures a year, and it's like, some of those people are comfortable, some of those people aren't, right? So it's like, you know, I mean, if it's aligned with your vision and what you feel is best for you in your life and what makes you happy, that's different, right? But if it's not, then you need to figure that shit out because, you know, again, you don't know what that time frame is, right? There's an expiration date here. Lion King, Circle of Life. You know what I mean? Like, shit's real, you know?
And then the hardest part, I think, is when you die, your memory doesn't last that long. That's what's trippy. You know what I'm saying? You know, Kobe's incident happened 3 days ago now. Life continues.
It's already fizzled out on the news.
It's already fizzled out.
As great
and
of
that's
a
okay. But and that's somebody that's significant. You know, I'm like, if I pass away,
you don't mean shit.
I'm probably an hour or two of like, oh, that's too bad.
Right. No,
Scroll
but
next
those
on
are facts though.
Yeah,
you know what I
so
mean? Like, granted, Kobe's situation, right? Like, it's starting to fizzle out, but my man's about to get in, you know, Marvel.
Yeah.
I mean, bro, that's a legacy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Marvel's been around for years.
Right.
You know what I mean? NBA logo. I mean, again, that's a legacy.
Yeah.
Right? I see some other thing, like an article. I forgot what stadium, but I thought there was a stadium, like they were going to change it to Kobe Stadium or something like that. Like, bro, that's a legacy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you have a building named after you. Like Varnum downtown, bro. They had the light of it. The Varnum logo was lit up purple and yellow. Like, bro, that's a legacy. You know what I mean? Like, Kobe's all the way in L.A. You know what I mean? Like, he don't got nothing to do with Michigan.
Right.
I mean, I'm just gonna be real.
Happens.
You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
I'm just saying, right? So it's like, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, you know, the only limit is yourself, really, your imagination, right? So, you know, Kobe, with him being 41, obviously he still had work here to do, but considering like the impact, like it's not like it's like, you know, a 3-hour thing, right? It's not like it's gonna be like 3 days, right? Like he's about to have a stadium named after him,
right?
Like,
And that's different.
He's passed away,
different. But
you know what I mean? Like,
and here's my thing with that is I think we can have the same impact on in the communities where we're at, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's where you're serving, whether it's your business. You can have that impact in those places because your gifts, your talents, your print, wherever you're walking through in life, if you leave that impact there, it's going to remain there if it was authentic and true.
oh, 100%.
You know, that's what I'm
100%.
trying to see, because I'm like, man, if I die, what really will I leave behind? People will talk about me like, I was a nice guy, it was cool, he's doing crunchy munchies, and he died. Like, cool. You know, and it's kind of
real sad.
It's, you know, thank you. I hope you would. Shoot, I'm like, oh, I work hard for this. You know, but it's that thing is like, as long as I'm making an impact with the people that I'm coming close in contact with now, that is what matters the most. And I think that's what we're really doing. And that puts things in a whole different perspective for me.
Oh, 100%.
You know,
I think it's rare for somebody like Kobe. Sometimes it's good to affect a smaller group of people and you're going to have a harder impact on 5 people.
Right.
Like Kobe somehow did it, you know, to everybody.
I mean, it's greatness.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
great.
100%.
It's the greatest example of greatness.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's
100%.
all discipline.
100%.
He said in his interview, though, with Patrick David we were listening to, he's like, something about missing the shots when he was 18, and he missed all these shots on national TV, and somebody asked him, like, are you upset or whatever, and he's like, upset about what? Like, I'm not that special. Like, what? I missed shots on national TV. He's like, that's not I'm cool, but like, I'm not like that. Like, people don't care. They're gonna forget.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Oh, 100%.
And even
So
he says
interesting.
that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool to think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start wrapping it up here, and definitely, I mean, we can go on for hours. I feel like, you know,
That's what it feels like.
great conversationalist.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
it's
not
just
gonna lie.
you got so many ideas and good things, you know, going on. But at least for your work and where can people find you if somebody's interested in finding a house? What kind of house? How can they go about, you know, searching for you?
So in short, if you guys want to find me, best way to get in contact with me would be Instagram. So Grind to Live is the IG name there, and then Facebook, just Jeffrey Vernado Jr.
We'll put that in the show notes, y'all.
Yeah.
So Grind to Live, and then so what impact do you want to have in your business as far as being a realtor in your community, and then what impact do you want to have in general in the world when you die?
As far as the impact, man, no, I mean, that's a great question. As far as the impact, I'm still trying to figure that out, right? What I do know is I do want to leave a legacy, right? As far as the extent and what that looks like, I'm not entirely sure, right? But again, like, I want this to be something that, like, I can hand down to, you know, my children, my grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren, right? You know, to really just bring, like, honor to my name. And there's so many things, like, around the world that I'm passionate about. But again, I don't have the resources to, like, you know, reach globally yet, right? So as far as that legacy, man, like, you know, at least with my children and, like, inner circle, just somebody who's, you know, willing to work hard, extremely dedicated to the process, disciplined, you know, and willing to do what it takes to be out of my comfort zone and push to that next level. You know, and I love giving my time away. I feel like my time, again, is like the most valuable thing to me. I would prefer to give that away versus, like, you know, money as a tool. Just because I feel like, you know, again, that's the one thing, like, I'm not going to get back. I definitely would like to, you know, get more involved in the community, but I'm still trying to figure out, like, what that looks like as well too. But yeah, man.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, we really appreciate it, man. I mean, I see your work, and you're doing awesome work on Facebook, on Instagram. Like, what I see is you're putting your values out there. And I think the best marketers, the ones that sell the best, put their values first, and then let others connect with those values. And then when you do connect, you have something in common to talk about. You know, I think that's what happened with us.
Oh,
It's
100%.
hard to teach. You can't teach it.
You can't teach that.
You just kind of can't teach somebody to have values to attract the right person. It's just
Oh, absolutely not.
you
know
do
what I
it
mean?
well. So mad props.
Man, props, man. So go ahead and find Mr. JV on Facebook under Jeffrey Vernado, right?
Yep.
And yeah, man. So thank you guys for watching. We're gonna wrap this up. That is it for the evening.
That's it.
That's it.
Peace.
Take care,
wrap.
guys.